If we're looking at recent extreme events in the Middle East and North Africa, the severity of those events will increase because of the nature of the global warming. If we say the summer temperatures in the Gulf are usually between 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, we've exceeded that. You know, we've gone up to 53, 54 from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Oman, Iraq. This is not a single event. The IPCC says anything above 1.5 degrees is dangerous climate change. We see clear evidence that the global average temperature compared to pre-industrial is going up now above 1.1 degrees Celsius. One of the issues in the Middle East, North Africa, is it's going up more than that. In some parts of the region, it's going up twice that and more. Why is it rising more rapidly on a regional basis in the Middle East and North Africa than elsewhere in the world? Key one to try to explain is the idea of what scientists call positive feedback. This is when a climate change stress is amplified by what's happening on the ground, as it were. That means we need to have a regionally kind of sensitive understanding of what's going on. And particularly, we need to look carefully at those areas which are suffering what we might call this positive feedback. Because it means, in a way, in simple language, that things are running out of control. And there's very little we can do in that situation in terms of helping people's vulnerability, for example. In Iraq, what's happening, of course, the agriculture is collapsing, the farmers are moving to the cities. The cities have lots of migrants and that's then putting stress on in terms of water supply. The severity is greater in MENA. And that means, for sure, the issue about habitability, declining water availability, the lack of livability, the extent to which people can actually exist and work and live in environments with temperature extremes. So the extent to which countries can protect themselves, the more developed they are economically, the more they're able to switch economies away from sectors which are sensitive to sort of climate change impacts. Sometimes it's rediscovering ways of living which these countries had in the past. In Palestine, in terms of sort of traditional Palestinian terrace sort of agriculture, irrigation, which is, for all the reasons to do with the occupation, not able to sort of continue in that kind of traditional form. Lebanon, for example, where there's a very high demand from the refugee population on water, and this is often being talked about as the refugees are causing sort of water shortage in Lebanon. I mean, frankly, it's nonsense, yeah? The water shortage in Lebanon is not to do with sort of natural water availability. Lebanon has actually quite good natural water availability. The water shortage in Lebanon is about the infrastructure breaking up, the lack of fuel to support sort of electricity, to pump water around pipe systems, and basically the fragmentation of the country and the dysfunction. Lebanon is a domestic governance failure, and so I think the governance failures are the more significant factor in triggering these sort of economic collapses, in triggering, of course, displacement through conflict, through violence. The challenge is relearning, and also being able to exist in a situation in which these communities, these peoples, these societies are able to exist unmolested, peacefully, and with dignity and with economic kind of security. You need to have a certain level of wealth to pay for example, air conditioning, or importing food, for example, changing your economic base away from rain-fed agriculture. 70% of MENA depend on rain-fed agriculture. Rain-fed agriculture is the most sensitive kind of economic sector to climate change. If you do not move from a rain-fed agriculture to a more, what I would call a smarter agriculture kind of production system, in terms of things like drip irrigation, and not growing, for example, water-intensive crops, you can mitigate some of these effects. But it's going to take a massive kind of transformation. And I should say, you know, in a sense, it's unfair to expect the people, particularly the people in the region and the countries, to take this burden by themselves.